Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here today. I have another crochet tutorial for you, and it is for these gloves that I am currently wearing. These are fingerless crochet cable stitch gloves. They look a little bit like they're knitted because this cable stitch is a popular knitting stitch, but they are crochet. So I'm going to take you through a step-by-step process on how to crochet these gloves, and you can make them any length. You can make them really short. You can make them even longer if you wanted to. But let's go ahead and jump into the tutorial for these crochet cable stitch fingerless gloves. For this tutorial, I'm using weight 3 acrylic yarn and a 4mm crochet hook. I'm going to start by chaining 36. Now I will say that this is a general fit for a glove. Like in most cases, I would say the chain 36 will fit you just fine. But in the case that it is a little bit too big or a little bit too small, feel free to adjust this chain. I just recommend that if you are taking away chains, that you take them away in groups of 2. So like if you want to chain a little bit less instead of 36, perhaps chain 34 or 32, just reducing in groups of 2 or adding in groups of 2. So I'm going to go ahead and make my chain of 36, and then you go ahead and make whatever chain length you decide that you need. For reference, when you're making your chain, the measurement or the way it fits is if we wrap this around, this here will be the width for your wrist. And in the case of making gloves, I do recommend making them slightly on the tighter side. Obviously, they should still be able to fit. They should still be comfortable, not cutting off your circulation, but you want to be a little bit tighter because crochet does stretch, especially when crochet is getting a lot of wear and tear. And when it's on your hands, it's getting some of the most wear it possibly can because it's on your hands. So I would make it a little bit on the tighter side. So as it stretches naturally, it doesn't become too loose, but again, make sure you're not like cutting off your circulation or anything. So here I have my chain of 36. I'm going to go ahead and chain one more to act as a turning chain, and now going into that first chain that we made here, so going past that extra chain we just made, the turning chain, I'm going to insert my hook and place a single crochet. And now into every single one of these chain stitches, I'm going to place single crochets. So I'm just doing one row here of single crochet. In total, I will have 36 stitches going across, just placing one single crochet into every single chain stitch. And now at the end of this row, I'm going to go ahead and chain one to act as a turning chain and turn my work. Into this very first stitch here, I'm going to insert my hook and place a single crochet, and we're going to repeat this for one more row of single crochet. So you should have 2 single crochets in total, or 2 rows of single crochet in total. So I'm going to go ahead and complete this second row here with more single crochets into every single stitch down the entire row. At the end of the second row here, I'm going to go ahead and chain one and turn my work. And now going forward, I'm going to quickly mention if you chained anything different than the 36, so if you decide to chain more or less, you want to take that number and cut it in half. So for instance, if you ended up chaining 32 instead of 36, that's 4 chains that you did less than the number I did. So you're going to take that number 4 and cut it in half, so you have a group of 2 and 2. And then when I mention that we're going to start with a certain number of single crochets, take 2 off of that number, and then at the end here, take another 2 off, if that makes sense. Because of the way that the glove works, we want to make sure the cable is lined up perfectly on the back of your hand and the back of your wrist. So whatever number is different than the number I chained, you're going to take that number, cut it in half, and then take the number you cut in half and reduce it from what I said. You would do the same thing if you added more. So for instance, if you ended up chaining 40 instead of 36, that's again a 4 chain difference. Cut that number in half, that's 2 and 2. You're going to add 2 more stitches to the first side and then add 2 more to the back side. All right, hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions or if that wasn't super clear, just mention it in the comments and I'll try to explain better in text. So now we're going to go ahead and jump into row number 3, which is the first row of the cables. And the first cable row is arguably the most difficult because we're trying to get it started. So just bear with me here. Once you get past this first row, it's going to be a lot easier. So now I'm going to go ahead and start with 8 single crochet. So into these next 8 stitches, I'm going to place a single crochet. Okay, and now we want to go ahead and do 6 double crochets, but with these double crochets, instead of inserting my hook right into the next stitch here, I'm actually going to go down to that first row of single crochet. So as we look at our project here, you can see we're made up of 2 rows of single crochet that we started off with. So here's the chain, and then right above that chain is our first row of single crochet, and then our second row of single crochet. So I'm going to prepare to complete a double crochet, so I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to go down to that first row of single crochet. If I were to insert my hook here into this stitch, that means I'm working into our last row of single crochet, but I want to work into the first one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight down, and then you'll see that this row here is made up of sort of a post. So in between these two stitches in the first row is this little post, if it can focus. Right here is a little post of yarn. I'm going to insert my hook in this stitch, scoop up that post, and then pop my hook through the other stitch like so. So my hook is inserted between those two stitches of that first row of single crochet with just the post on my hook, and then I'm going to complete a double crochet like so. So the double crochet is stretching all the way down past this row of single crochet and stretching to the first row, and then it's placed into that post on the first row. So again, I'm going to yarn over, and now I'm going to go down to that first row of single crochet. I'm going to insert my hook right through this stitch, the next stitch here, and then pop my hook through to the next stitch after that, therefore having that sort of post in between the two stitches on my hook. I'm going to pick up that yarn and complete a double crochet like so. This is a lot like the term mosaic crochet. That's essentially what we're doing here. So there's two. I'm going to yarn over again. I'm going down to that first row of single crochet. I'm going to insert my hook in between those two stitches, picking up the post like so, and then double crochet. And we want 6 of these double crochet stitches. So there's 3. And as you can see, those 3 double crochets are stretching all the way down to the bottom of the project, and then they're coming out of that post in the bottom row. So again, I'm going to yarn over, go back down to that first row of single crochet. I'm inserting that hook right behind that post in the first row, picking up the yarn and completing a double crochet like so. So there's 4, and now we're going to go ahead and do 2 more. So I'm yarning over, going down, putting my hook right through that post, and then double crocheting. Again, this is the most difficult part of the row because we're trying to get the row started. Once we have this first row done, it's a lot easier. So I'm going to complete 1 more double crochet here, going down to that first row, inserting my hook behind that post, and placing a double crochet like so. So now here we should have 6 double crochets all placed in that bottom row there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now what we're going to do to make sure we have it lined up correctly is I'm going to sort of fold this double crochet down. We can kind of push it down and see the stitches behind it because we didn't place them into these stitches on the top row. We can really just fold this down and look at these stitches. So now to make sure I have it lined up correctly, I'm going to count these stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now into the 7th stitch, I'm going to insert my hook and place a single crochet like so. So there we have some single crochets, these double crochets, which are kind of popping forward like so, and then a single crochet here. I'm going to place another single crochet, and then that completes the cable part of this row. And now for the remainder of this row, I'm just going to single crochet all the way down to the end. So now at the end of the row, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And now every other row, or when we find ourselves on the wrong side of the project, which the wrong side means that the double crochet stitches are facing backwards, and we have all the single crochet stitches facing forward. So that's every other row, also known as the wrong side. We're just going to do an entire row of single crochet. So into every single one of these stitches, I'm just going to single crochet all the way across, and I'm not worrying about placing any more double crochets with this row. So we're just going to do 1 full row of single crochet. And as you're single crocheting along this row, when you reach the portion where we place those double crochets, you'll notice that there's a gap between where we have these two. So there's stitches here along the back, and then there's stitches along the front here. These are the double crochet stitches. These are the single crochet stitches. So as you're working across this row, you want to place these single crochets into the double crochets. So I'm skipping these stitches here that we skipped in the previous row, and I'm working into the double crochet stitches that we had placed as I complete this row of single crochet. At the end of the row, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work, and now we're going to start this row with 7 single crochets. So into these first 7 stitches, I'm just placing a single crochet stitch. And after the 7th stitch, we're now going to start placing these double crochets again. So I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to look at these 6 double crochets of the previous row, and this is where it's a lot easier because we're not trying to force our way into a single crochet anymore. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that first of the 6 double crochets, and I'm going to insert my hook right under that double crochet. So I'm going under the post of the double crochet stitch like so, and then placing a double crochet like so. So now we're going to go ahead and do this 2 more times. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook through the next double crochet stitch here, going right through the post, and place another double crochet for 2, yarn over, insert my hook under that 3rd double crochet post, and double crochet. So we have 3 double crochets completed, and all 3 of these are coming out of the post of the double crochets of the previous row. So now we want to place a couple single crochets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of fold down these double crochets like we've done before. I'm going to look at the stitches behind it, and I'm going to go 2 stitches in. And I'm going to go 2 stitches in and insert my hook into the 3rd stitch. The 3rd stitch is kind of sitting behind this last double crochet, so you might have to kind of work your way behind that one to insert your hook right into that 3rd stitch, like so. And now we're going to place a single crochet right into that 3rd stitch, like so. Into the next stitch, we're going to place 1 more single crochet, so we should have 2 single crochets. And now we need to work into these last 3 double crochets of the previous row. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the next double crochet here right under the post, like so, and double crochet, yarn over, insert my hook right under the post, and double crochet for 2, yarn over under the last post of that last double crochet, and double crochet. So right now we should have 3 double crochets, a little gap here where we place those 2 single crochets, and then another 3 double crochets. So we're creating almost a little V shape. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of bring my work down like so, and I'm going to look back here at the stitches, and I'm going to again count 2 stitches, so 1, 2, insert my hook into that 3rd stitch, and place a single crochet like so. Now I'm just going to single crochet into every single stitch until I reach the end of the row. So in the rest of these stitches here, I'm just placing single crochets. And now at the end of the row, I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn my work for row 6. And now on row 6, I'm going to do just 1 row of single crochet, because if you remember, as I mentioned, in every other row, we're just doing a solid row of single crochet. So into every single stitch across this row here, I'll just be placing a single crochet stitch. And then remember at this point here where we've reached the double crochets, you want to work into the double crochets here. So you want to work into sort of the back part, not these stitches that we skipped. So I'm working right into those double crochet stitches that we had placed. And sometimes when I'm doing this, I like to count really quickly as I'm placing these stitches and just make sure I got my total of 36 stitches, because it can be a little bit easy to accidentally miss a stitch when you're working across here with the single crochets into those double crochets there. But in general, we're just doing 1 row of single crochet, making sure you're stitching into all of the back stitches, so those double crochet stitches there. For row 7, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work, and we're going to go ahead and start with 7 single crochets. And after completing those 7 single crochets, we're going to go ahead and do a repeat of row 5. So I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to go to the next double crochet here. I'm inserting my hook under the post of that double crochet, like so, and then placing a double crochet. And we want to do 3 of these in total, so I'm going to do another 2, just inserting my hook right under the actual post of the double crochet the previous row, for 2 and 3 of those stitches. I'm going to kind of fold the double crochets down, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, insert my hook right into that 4th stitch, and single crochet, and then insert my hook into the next stitch for another single crochet. And then we're going to do 3 more double crochets into these next 3 double crochets here. So I'm going to insert my hook right under the sort of post of this double crochet, like so, and do 1, 2, and then I'm going to do 3 double crochets here, all under the posts of the double crochets of the previous row. And then I'm going to fold this down, count 1, 2, 3 stitches here going behind these double crochets, insert my hook into the 4th stitch, and place a single crochet. So it should be looking like this. It's an identical version of the row we did in the previous row. So for row 5, we're doing just a repeat of that with 3 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 3 double crochets, again working on that sort of V shape there. And now I'm going to go ahead and complete this row with all single crochets down to the end of the row. And now for row 8, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And now because we're on the wrong side of the project, I'm going to go ahead and do a row of just single crochets all the way down this row here. So 1 single crochet in every single stitch until I reach the end of the row. And then again, I'm going to make sure I'm single crocheting into those double crochet stitches of the previous row. So I'm working into these sort of back stitches here as I single crochet across. And I chain 1 and turn my work here for row 9. We're going to go ahead and start with 7 single crochets. And now we're going to do pretty much a repeat of that row before. So I'm yarning over, inserting my hook underneath the post of that previous double crochet and placing a double crochet. We want 3 stitches in total, or 3 double crochets in total. So again, I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook under the next double crochet stitch there, place another double crochet for 2, and then the third time for 3. Like so. And then I'm going to tip the double crochets down, and then I'm going to go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, and into that 4th stitch there, I'm placing my hook and placing a single crochet, and then I'm going to place another single crochet into the stitch right after it, like so. And now we're going to yarn over, insert our hook underneath the next double crochet there, and then place a double crochet. We're going to do this 3 times into these next 3 double crochets. So there's 2 and 3, like so. Fold that down, and then look 1, 2, 3, insert your hook into the 4th stitch there, and place a single crochet. So it should be looking like this at this point in time. And now I'm going to go ahead and complete the row with just all single crochets into every single stitch down to the end of the row. And now I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work for row 10, which for this row, I'm just going to go ahead and place a single crochet into every single stitch across the entire row. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work for row 11. And for row 11, I'm going to start with 8 single crochets. So into these next 8 stitches, I'm going to place a single crochet. So now with this row, we want to sort of close the V shape or close the cable. So what we're going to do is 6 consecutive double crochets. So I'm yarning over, inserting my hook underneath the post of that first double crochet, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this 6 times into these next double crochets. So here's 2 and 3. And now I'm going to go ahead and yarn over, and for the 4th double crochet, I'm going to skip past these single crochets all the way over to the next double crochet here. So I'm skipping this sort of gap, inserting my hook under the post of that next double crochet, and placing my 4th double crochet stitch like so. And then I'm just going to continue on for 5 and 6. Like so. So we have 6 double crochets, all one after another. I'm going to fold this back, and I'm going to then count 6 stitches down. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into that 7th stitch, I'm going to insert my hook and place a single crochet, like so. So it should look like that. We have sort of this little gap in the middle here, and then it closes back up at the top. And now I'm going to go ahead and just single crochet down the rest of this row, just placing a single crochet into every single stitch until I reach the end of the row. And now for row 12, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and because this is the wrong side of the project, I'm going to go ahead and just single crochet into every single stitch all the way across this entire row here. For row 13, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And now row 13 might get a little bit tricky as well, so just bear with me here. So what we're going to do to start off this row is we're going to start with 8 single crochets. So into these first 8 stitches, I'm going to place a single crochet. So in this row, what we essentially want to do, if we look at this finished one here, is we want to create this sort of crossover where the cable goes up, down, and then crosses over like that. So the way we're going to do this is starting with 3 treble crochets. So for a treble crochet, I'm going to yarn over twice. I'm wrapping that yarn around my hook twice. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip the first 3 double crochet. So instead of going into this first double crochet here, I'm skipping past those first 3. I'm going to insert my hook into the 4th double crochet. And so I'm going to insert my hook right under the post of that 4th double crochet. And now we're going to complete a treble crochet. So I'm going to grab the yarn, pull it right through that post like so. So I have 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So I should have 3 loops on my hook still, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, so I should have 2 loops remaining, and then yarn over and pull through those last 2 loops. That's how you complete a treble crochet, and now we want to do 2 more of those. So I'm going to yarn over twice, and then insert my hook under the next double crochet there, which is technically the 5th double crochet of the row, pull that yarn through, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through those last 2 loops. going to do one more treble crochet, so I'm going to yarn over twice, insert my hook into the last or sixth double crochet there, pick up some yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through those last 2 loops, therefore completing 3 treble crochets in the last 3 double crochets of that previous row. Now what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over twice, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky because we want to backtrack and we want to go start working in these first 3 double crochets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch my hook all the way back, and I'm going to insert my hook into the first of the 3 double crochets. So I'm going all the way back to that very first double crochet and inserting my hook right into that post there. And now we're going to complete that treble crochet. So I'm going to pull some yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, like so, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2, like so. And then I'm going to yarn over twice, insert my hook into the second double crochet because now we're treble crocheting into these 3 double crochets here. So I'm inserting my hook right into that second double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all those last loops there, like so. And now the very last one is I'm going to yarn over twice, insert my hook under that very third double crochet there, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So in total we placed 6 treble crochets. We placed the first 3 in the last 3 double crochets of the previous row, and then we placed the last 3 treble crochets into the first 3 double crochets of the previous row. So we kind of crisscrossed it like so. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the back of the project here, and again I'm just going to count 6 stitches down. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and into that 7th stitch I'm going to insert my hook and place a single crochet, like so. So it should look like this, where it's kind of crossing over itself. So we have this sort of little rounded shape with then these treble crochets sitting on top of these, sort of crossing over. And now what we're going to do is we're going to finish off this row with a single crochet into every single stitch to the end of this row. For row 14, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And now because we have the wrong side face up here, we're going to go ahead and just do 1 row of all single crochets. And then here, because of that previous row, everything might look a little bit twisted and confusing, but we still want to work into these stitches in the back of the row here. So as I go across, I'm just going to make sure that I'm working into 6 double crochets so I don't accidentally miss a stitch. So I'm just counting all the stitches I'm placing here to make sure I'm hitting all 6 of the double crochets. And you may have to kind of push this part off to the side to find the stitch you're looking for. So just kind of look at it and find the stitches that you need in order to hit all 6 of those double crochet stitches so you don't accidentally miss a stitch. So we're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn our work for row 15. And now I'm going to start with 8 single crochets. So there are those 8 single crochets completed, and now what we want to do is 6 consecutive double crochets. And now we want to complete 6 consecutive double crochets, and the way this works is the first 3 double crochets that we place, we want them to land on the left side here of this cable, and then the last 3 we want to be on the right side. So we're kind of sort of encouraging that crossover there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of push this right side away, and it might be hard to see, but if you push these treble crochets on top away, you can see the 3 treble crochets beneath. Those are the 3 I'm going to work into. So I'm going to work into the first of those 3 treble crochets, and again, it's kind of hard to see. You might just have to kind of go in blindly, find that first treble crochet stitch and get your hook right underneath that post, and then place a double crochet. And you want to make sure you grab all 3 of these here. So there's 1, here's 2, and 3, like so. And I'm going to lay this back down flat, and now we can work into these 3 treble crochets. So we wanted to make sure we were finding the treble crochets that were underneath, that way it crosses over, and now we can work into these 3, completing our 6 consecutive double crochets. So I'm going to yarn over and then insert my hook right under this first treble crochet here, and then double crochet. We're going to do this until we have 6 of these. So here's 5 and 6, like so. So now you can see here that we have 6 double crochets in a row, and they're kind of crossing over just like we want it to, so that this one's crossing behind and then this side's crossing on top, like so. So now I'm going to go ahead and look at the stitches behind it and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then into that 7th stitch there, I'm going to go ahead and single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet into every single stitch until I reach the end of the row. For row 16, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And now because we're on the wrong side of the project, this row I'm just going to do all single crochets, so in every single stitch here I'm going to just single crochet. Row 17, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. I'm going to start with 7 single crochets. And now we want to go ahead and complete 3 double crochets. So again, I'm making sure that I'm working into these first 3 of these double crochets. So I'm inserting my hook right under the post of that first double crochet and placing another one. I'm going to do this 3 times here. And 3. And now I'm going to sort of fold my work down so I can see the stitches behind it, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then insert my hook into that 4th stitch there and place a single crochet, and then I'll single crochet once more into the next stitch. So we have 2 stitches in total, and now we're going to do another 3 double crochets. So into these last 3 double crochets of the previous row, I'm placing 3 more double crochets right under the post of these stitches. There's 2 and 3. And then again, I'm going to fold this back and then count the stitches. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then insert my hook right into that 4th stitch there for a single crochet, like so. So right now the cables should be looking like this. We should have our first sort of full cable done with that crossover, and now we're starting up on the second cable like so. And now I'm going to go ahead and just single crochet all the way down for the rest of this row. 1 single crochet stitch into every single stitch for the remainder of this row. For row 18, I chained 1 and turned my work. Here we have the wrong side face up. So I'm going to go ahead and just do 1 row of all single crochets. So I'm placing a single crochet stitch into every single stitch across this row for just 1 row. For row 19, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work, and we're going to start with 7 single crochets. And now we're going to do the exact same thing we did in the last row. So we're going to start with 3 double crochets into these first 3 double crochets here. So I'm just putting my hook right underneath the post of those previous double crochets. I'm going to complete 3 of these. Like so. And now I'm going to look at the stitches behind, and I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3, insert my hook into that 4th stitch, single crochet, and then single crochet into the next stitch. So we have 2 single crochet stitches in total. I'm then going to yarn over, and we're going to complete our next 3 double crochets. So right under the post of these 3 double crochets of the previous row, I am placing 3 double crochets. There's 3, and then I'm going to sort of fold the work back so I can see the stitches behind it. Go 1, 2, 3, insert my hook right into that 4th stitch and single crochet. And now I'm just going to single crochet into every single stitch here until I reach the end of the row. Now for row 20, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And now for this row, we're just going to do 1 row here of all single crochet. So into every single stitch for this entire row, I'm just going to be placing single crochet stitches until I reach the end of the row. For row 21, I'm now going to chain 1 and turn my work. I'm going to go ahead and start with 7 single crochets. And now we're going to do 1 more repeat of the row before. So I'm going to start with 3 double crochets into the double crochets of that previous row. So I'm going to insert my hook under the post of the double crochet and then place another double crochet. We're going to do this 3 times here. So here's 2 and 3. Like so. And then I push this back, and then we go 1, 2, 3, and then insert my hook into the 4th stitch, single crochet, and then single crochet into the stitch right after it. So we have 2 single crochet stitches there. And now we're going to place 3 double crochets into the last 3 double crochets here of the previous row. So inserting my hook right under the post of that double crochet. I'm going to do this 3 times, completing 3 double crochet stitches here. So there's 2 and 3. And then I fold the work back and I count the stitches behind it for 1, 2, 3. Insert my hook into that 4th stitch there, single crochet, and now I'm going to single crochet into every single stitch until I reach the end of the row. Row 22, we single crochet, turn our work, and then I'm just going to do 1 whole row here of single crochet, so I'm placing a single crochet stitch into every single stitch for the end of this row. And now for row 23, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work. We're going to go ahead and start with 8 single crochets, so I'm going to place a single crochet into the first 8 stitches here. And now with this row, we want to sort of close the cable, so we're going to go ahead and do 6 double crochets, one after another. So I'm working into these first 3 double crochets of the previous row. I'm going to insert my hook right under the cable of, or not the cable, the post of the previous double crochets, and I'm going to place 3 double crochets here. So there's 2 and 3, and now after placing those first 3 double crochets, instead of placing 2 single crochets in between, I'm just going to yarn over and I'm going to go all the way across here to the next 3 double crochets, insert my hook right under that post, and then just start placing the remaining 3 double crochets. So we have 6 consecutive double crochets in total. So there's 5 and 6, like so. And now I'm going to push this back and count the stitches behind it. I'm going to count 6 stitches down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then insert my hook right into that 7th stitch there and single crochet. So it should be looking like this, where we have the cable, it opens up here, and then right here it's just starting to come to a close at the very top, like so. And now for the end of this row, I'm going to go ahead and just single crochet in every single stitch until I reach the end of the row. Now for row 24, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work. This row is on the wrong side of the project, as you can see here. So for this row, we're just going to go ahead and do an entire row of single crochet stitches. So I'm just going to single crochet into every single stitch until I reach the end of the row. Row 25, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and now we're going to go ahead and start with 8 single crochet stitches. And now this is the row where we want to go ahead and sort of crisscross these cables here. So we're going to start doing our treble crochets again. So I'm going to yarn over twice, and then I'm going to skip past these first 3 double crochets and go over to the other side here where we have these 3 double crochets. So I'm going to insert my hook into technically the 4th double crochet, or the first of this chunk of 3. Insert my hook right under that cable, pull the yarn through, and now we're going to treble crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through those last 2 stitches like so. And then we're going to yarn over twice, insert our hook right under the next cable here, and then complete another treble crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to do 1 more cable, so we have 3 in total, or 1 more treble crochet. So I'm going to insert my hook right into that post and then complete a 3rd treble crochet, like so. And now we want to go ahead and go back and complete our first 3 treble crochets into these first 3 double crochets. So I'm going to yarn over twice, and then we're going to stretch all the way back until I reach that very first double crochet, and then insert my hook right under that post there, and then complete a treble crochet. Okay, and now we want to go ahead and do our last 2 treble crochets. So I'm yarning over twice, and I'm going to go into the next double crochet here and complete another treble crochet, and then yarn over twice, and then insert my hook into the 3rd double crochet, which is also the last one we have to work into, and treble crochet, like so. I'm going to then push all of this back. I'm going to look at the stitches behind it. I'm going to count, let's see, where does this start? Right here. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Insert our hook right into that 7th stitch and single crochet, like so. So at this point, it should be looking like this, where we have the row of 6 treble crochets crossing over each other. So we should have the side on the right here crossing over the side on the left, which is perfect. And now we're going to go ahead and complete the row by just single crocheting into every single stitch until I reach the end of the row. And now I'm going to chain 1, and then turn my work. And for row 26, which is on the wrong side here, I'm going to do an entire row of single crochet. So I'm just going to single crochet in every single stitch here. And again, here at this cable, when I'm single crocheting into the stitches in the back here, I am going to count and make sure that I hit all 6 of these treble crochets so I don't accidentally miss a stitch, because it can be easy to miss a stitch after this row with the way everything is all twisted up. So I'm just going to make sure I'm getting all 6 of these double crochets before I then continue on with just single crochets till I reach the end of the row. So here you can see the completed crochet cable like so. This is what it should be looking like. It just looks so cool. So you're going to want to go ahead and just continue going until this is the length that you want. For the sake of this tutorial, I want to do another 1.5 of these cables, because as I can show you here, this is a completed glove despite the ends, and here we have 2 full cables and then 2 sort of half cables here. So because we've already completed like half and then 1 cable, you're going to want to go ahead and just complete 1.5 more of these. So just go back and follow between rows 15 and 26, which is what we did for this cable here. You're going to follow that exact same pattern. I'll also just put the written instructions up here on the screen now. So if you don't want to rewatch it all and you just want a written reminder of what to do, you can follow that instead. But just follow the instructions between row 15 and 26 of this video to complete another 1.5 cables, or as many more cables as you want for as long as you want this glove to be. I'm going to go ahead and complete the rest of these cables or the rest of these rows, and I'll see you once I'm done with that so we can then go ahead and assemble the glove. So I've made quite a bit of progress on the glove here, and I'm now working on the 4th cable, and I'm doing my very last row for the actual cable. So instead of ending with the row where you twist the cable with treble crochets, I'm going to end with just this first row of 6 double crochets. So after I completed the 3 rows of 3 double crochet, 2 single crochet, 3 double crochet, I'm then going to go ahead and sort of close that cable by completing the 6 double crochets here. So here's 3, and I'm going to jump over to the next 3 and do another 3 double crochets. Like so. So I'm completing those 6 consecutive double crochets, which therefore closes the cable. And this is the same point of the cable where we started it at the bottom here. So this is the last row for the last cable that I'm going to do. And if you end up adding more cables or less, you just want to make sure when you end that you end here with the 6 double crochets and you don't cross it over. Obviously it's up to personal preference, but I think this just looks better to have it starting and ending on the same sort of row or point. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish up this row here with all of the single crochets. So then lastly, I want to make sure I'm ending on a row of single crochet just to help clean up the look. So I chained 1, turned my work, and I'm just going to do that 1 row of single crochet along the wrong side of the project. And this is going to be my last row for the glove. So here's that last row completed. I'm not going to cast off. I'm just going to pause quickly to show you the reference here. So as I said before, you can make this as long as you want, but I went ahead and did 4 cables pretty much, starting and ending with just barely closing the cable without actually twisting the cable. So it's almost 4 cables. And the way I measure this is if I put the top of the glove here right across my knuckle for my pinky, kind of going with the lowest finger on my hand. So I'm just lining it up like so. I can then pull it down and it goes right past my wrist. So it definitely is a bit of a longer glove, but I personally like the way that looks. Again, you can add more or less. So that is the length of the glove, and now we're going to go ahead and attach this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it right sides together. So I'm folding it this way so that the cable is going on the inside and we have the wrong side face up. That way we can then slip stitch together and have the seam be on the inside. So I'm going to quickly bring my hook right back in here, like so. And now the number that I am slip stitching, you may have to adjust for your own measurements depending on how many rows you did end up doing for the glove, and also the measurements of your own hand. So I will give you the exact number of stitches that I slip stitch, but again, you may need to adjust this, so just try it on quite often and see what you might need to adjust. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to insert my hook right into the stitch that's directly below my hook. We're now going to be working along the side of the glove instead of the top. Because it's folded in half, we're working the long way here along the side of the glove. So I'm going to go straight down here and insert my hook right into this first stitch, like so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the other side of the glove where we have it folded over, and I'm going to find that first stitch on this side. So I'm going right into the first stitch on the top corner of the glove, like so. So I should have the first stitch on the front and the back of this glove on my hook. I'm then going to pick up some yarn, pull it through both of those stitches, and then also pull it through the loop on my hook. That's completing a slip stitch, and that is our first slip stitch completed. I'm going to do a total of 10 slip stitches, so 10 of these stitches are going to get slip stitched, and that is going to bring it from here down to the top of my thumb. So it's going to be the distance from my knuckle down to the top of my thumb, which again, you may need to adjust that number, but I found that 10 is a good number. So now I'm going to go ahead and go down into the next stitch. So I'm going right below into the next stitch here, the next row. And then I'm going to look on the back panel or the folded over portion, and I'm going to pick up the second stitch on this side. It's very important that you're picking up the exact same stitch on both sides, so just take your time and make sure it's all lined up correctly and you're picking up the second stitch for both sides so it's not uneven. I'm then pulling that yarn through both stitches and then also through the loop on my hook for 2. And then for our third slip stitch, I'm again going to go right down into now the third stitch. I'm going to look at the panel right behind it, and then I'm going to insert my hook into the third stitch there, again making sure it's lined up correctly, and I've picked up the third stitch on both sides. I'm then going to pick up the yarn, pull it through both stitches, and then also pull it through the loop on my hook like so for 3. And then again I'm going to do the same thing for 4, making sure I'm picking up the same stitches on both sides. And when I slip stitch, I do try to keep my tension a little bit loose, because if your tension is too tight, you're going to kind of bunch up the fabric and it's all going to ripple like this. So you want to hold your yarn and your hook a little bit on the looser side to give the yarn or the material room to move without bunching it up. So I've now completed 4 slip stitches, and I'm just going to repeat this until I have 10 stitches in total. So again, I'm just going to insert my hook right into the next stitch, and then line it up on the other side, picking up our 5th stitch here and slip stitch. And I'm going to do this another 5 times until I have 10 slip stitches in total. I've now slip stitched down all 10 of these stitches, so then what you want to do is quickly measure it. So you're just going to put your hand right through like so and pull this down until it sits right above your thumb, like so. And then you can measure it here and see if you like that height, or if you wanted to add or take away some stitches. Again, this should be sitting kind of right above your thumb at a comfortable point, and then just see if you like the way that fits. And if you do, then we're good to go, and I'm going to go ahead and cast off. And now to cast off, I'm going to chain 1 like so, and then I'm going to cut my yarn, leaving a little bit of a tail so I have some yarn to weave in later. And then I just pull my hook until the yarn pops right through that chain 1, and then give it a little tug to lock it in place. And then we're going to come back and weave that in later. So now, because we want a spot for the thumb hole, we want to go back down to the bottom of our glove here and then work our way up, leaving a little gap here for the thumb. So I'm going to tip my work, and I'm now working into the bottom right corner here. So I'm going to turn my work over and insert my hook right into that very first stitch on the bottom corner, and then do the same thing for the panel behind it. So I have both of those very first bottom stitches there on my hook. I'm then going to find my yarn, and I'm going to pick it back up. I'm going to grab my yarn and pull it right through that stitch, and then chain 1 to lock it in place. So there's our first stitch completed. And again, you may need to adjust the number of stitches you're slip stitching depending on your own fit or the number of rows you ended up doing for your glove. But for this glove and this measurement, I'm going to go ahead and do 29 slip stitches. So just like we did on the other side, I'm now going to insert my hook right into the next stitch, the second stitch on the first panel, and then going to the back panel, I'm going to insert my hook into the second stitch on that back panel, and then slip stitch like so for 2. And then I'm just going to repeat this again, making sure I'm taking my time, that I'm getting the same stitches on both sides for 3. And now I'm going to go ahead and just keep doing this until I have slip stitched into 29 stitches. So I have now completed all 29 of those slip stitches there, and there should just be a little hole remaining here in the center, sort of towards the top more for your finger or your thumb. So you're going to just want to quickly try it on before you cast off. And you just want to make sure that you like the size of that thumb hole, and if not, you want to adjust slightly by adding or taking away slip stitches. And I will mention, when you are slip stitching, it is important, if you're using a different number, to just write down what that number is. That way you can do the exact same number for the other glove so they're even. So like if instead of doing 29 slip stitches you decide to do 20, you want to go ahead and write down that you did 20 slip stitches for the long portion here below the thumb, so that way when you do the other glove you can make sure you do that 20 slip stitches again. So now that we know that this fits perfectly and that we like the way it fits along our thumb, I'm going to go ahead and add 1 row of single crochet. So just along the thumb here, because this is the edges of the rows, it ends up looking a little bit bumpy and rough. So just to clean up the look, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to single crochet. So I'm going to chain 1, and now I'm going to go right into this next stitch here and single crochet. And all I'm going to do is every single one of these stitches around this opening for the thumb, I'm just going to be placing 1 single crochet stitch, just working all the way around here. And now once I've single crocheted all the way up this back side here of the thumb opening and I've reached this slip stitch here, I'm just going to place 1 single crochet right at sort of the top, like so. And then I'm going to turn my work and we're going to work our way right back down this opening. So I'm just placing a single crochet into every single one of these stitches all the way around the opening for the thumb. And once I've single crocheted into every single stitch around and I've worked my way all the way back down to the end, I'm going to find that first single crochet stitch that we made at the start. And I'm going to insert my hook into that very first stitch, pick up some yarn and slip stitch. So I'm pulling that yarn through all of the loops on my hook, like so. And now we're going to cast off. So I'm going to chain 1 and then cut my yarn, leaving a little bit of a tail, and then pull my hook till that yarn pops right through, like so. So now what you're going to want to go ahead and do is just weave in these loose ends, and then we're going to turn the glove right side out. So I'm just going to rotate it right side out, like so. And so you should have this sort of tube shape with an opening here for the thumb hole, and the cables should be right in the center, going straight down here. So when you put it on, the cables fall right along the back of your hand. So this is generally what the glove should be looking like and fitting like, with these beautiful cables running right down the back. So now you're going to want to go ahead and follow this tutorial to make a second matching glove. So then you can have your pair of cable crochet fingerless gloves. And here are the completed gloves. These are honestly so fun to make. I've already made 3 pairs of these gloves. So I really hope that you found this tutorial to be helpful. And if you did make your own pair, feel free to tag me in any pictures that you post. Or if you don't want to post any pictures, but you just want to share the finished product with me, then you can send me a picture over to my Instagram DMs and I'll be sure to respond to you and tell you just how great it looks. Otherwise, if you have any questions about this design, feel free to leave those questions in the comments down below. I'll do my very best to get back to you on that. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and liking this video. That's what keeps me going, allows me to continue making more crochet tutorials and crochet designs for all of you. So I will see you again next week with another crochet related video. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful and blessed couple of days. I will see you soon. Goodbye.